Last week, I mean, Rabbi Freeman decided to take off for his travels, his worldly travels, so we didn't get to hear.
How do you know it wasn't like so depressed?
It could have been depression. Yeah. But usually every year we get to hear Rabbi Freeman's amazing Super Bowl wrap up, and we didn't get it last week, so it's such an amazing story this year that we're going to get the Super Bowl wrap up this week, because I know everybody's been waiting and anticipating this talk right now, this show.
Right.
So I got to tell you this, I'm from Atlanta. I'm not a huge Atlanta fan, but obviously I was rooting for the Atlanta Falcons in this game. And I got to tell you, the loss was devastating to the city. People were protesting, not, with signs about Patriots, not my Super Bowl champion. We won the popular vote. How could we have lost the game? And women all over Atlanta were protesting because of the misogyny of the Patriots. Not one single female on their team. And then that quarterback guy, Brady, only goes out with that model lady. He only wants the pretty women. The protesting was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. I know you were out of town, but I'm actually just kidding. We're from Georgia, not San Francisco. Things are a little bit different down here. It wasn't that crazy. People weren't getting that upset, but they still were pretty upset. It was like these people who probably hadn't seen a Falcons game, in the city, but all of a sudden when Falcons go to the Super Bowl, they joined together as a unit. The whole city, rise up, was the chant, and flags on your car for the Falcons. And I've never seen anything like it in Atlanta because, it was obviously we've never, beside one time, had any championship of any sport anywhere in the city of Atlanta. And they really came together, and it was a shame that they lost, but this kind of emotional thing that everybody wanted to be a part of it. Everybody really wanted to be part of this victory. I was a little confused.
Yeah.
Why is that? So now, I'm not as confused because I'm an Alabama fan, college football, and beside for 1 second this year, we've had a pretty good run of things, and I know the feeling. The feeling of, you're on the
Except
team.
that it was the last second.
It was the wrong second. It was the wrong second. But for the poor guys in Atlanta, I don't get this camaraderie. I don't get this. How can we all be Falcons fans like that and be so? The whole city was really actually hurt. It was a tough time for Atlanta.
Yeah.
Where does this come from?
And I'm not even going to talk about the symbolic references of like Patriots beating like birds. The birds are being very natural, and the Patriots are. But we don't even have to go there.
I actually thought that I was going to protest that as well because. Yeah. These days, Patriots is not a really good. That's not really a politically correct term.
Right.
But either of the Falcons, if you think about it, those birds swarming down on all those species down there, they're probably
birds of prey.
But they're probably destroying some rodent that's is about to go out extinct. So that's probably not that.
But
either.
The bottom line here is the really bottom line is that we've seen this before. There have been other sporting events where the end of the sporting event brings either elation, like euphoria, beyond like what any drug could offer.
And I've been there. It's amazing.
Right. And defeat,
agony,
dejection, just depression, horrible, like what happens. So why is that? This Super Bowl is just this Super Bowl, and perhaps this particular Super Bowl was the most euphoric and agonizing to the two sides that I possibly could imagine. I really can't imagine that a Patriots fan was ever more euphoric, and I can't imagine that like any fan was ever more dejected than a Falcons fan. I mean, it's hard to imagine.
The definition of the word choke, right?
Yeah,
that is bad.
I mean, it's really hard to imagine. So much so that I was getting my shoe shined in the airport on Monday, and the shoe shine guy was absolutely convinced that the NFL is all rigged, and he said it's clear that the Falcons are not going to win until they decide they're going to win.
Okay, well,
I agree with him. Because otherwise the whole thing was so implausible to him that the fix had to be in.
Well, I did hear that there's many Atlanta fans are signing a petition to withdraw from to secede from the NFL.
That's right. Well, maybe they would do better if they joined the SEC.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Anyway, the question is, why is it like that? Why is it like that? I mean, if we're going to take a moment, and I know when you talk sports, it's really kind of silly to take a moment to be rational, but if you take a moment of rationality, why should it be? I mean, everyone knows that the day after your team wins or loses, the loved ones that you have that are suffering from illness are still suffering from illness. The mortgage payment is still due.
True.
Your anniversary is still going to be your anniversary. If you had a baby, you still had a baby. I mean, it's, like nothing ever changes at all in your real life. So why is it that you're so euphoric or so dejected the day after the big game? That's the question.
Coming from a guy who can't watch college football because it's on Saturday. But you don't understand that much. But go ahead.
Never did get college football in Minnesota. What do we know? College
That's
football.
a good point, too. Good
college football? What is that? In Minnesota, the people at college actually get degrees. Anyway.
What's that about? Anyway.
It's a whole different thing. Yeah. So why is it like that? And, what's going on? First of all, what's the psychologist? I have to tell you, I wasn't going to revisit this again. We've talked about this actually before. However, the day after the Super Bowl, Monday, I had to leave town. I had a meeting out of town, so I spent the whole day traveling in my meetings. Didn't have any time to hear anything, and I was out of town, didn't hear what's going on in Atlanta. On Tuesday, when I got back, a very, very busy day. Every time you go out of town for a day, the day you get back, so it was a really busy day. So I was so busy, I did not have a minute to even flip on the radio, watch the news, to hear what people are saying. Didn't even have time to sit around and schmooze with anyone. Wednesday, things lightened up a little bit. I'm sitting in the car. I said, let's turn on sports radio and hear what they're saying. So they're all moping and, they're all down about it all. Guy calls up and he says, I am a 50-year Falcon fan. Okay, got it?
Oh, yeah.
I'm also a retired Marine. And I've lost friends in combat. So I figure I know what he's about to say, right?
Right.
You can figure. He says, and I want you to know, this was as bad as losing friends in combat.
You weren't thinking he's going there.
I looked at the radio. Is it possible that those words? I could not believe it.
Wow.
What? That's what you said? Anyway, then the jock moderator on the show says, yeah, I was at the game, and I've also lost loved ones, and this is worse.
Wow.
I'm like, whoa, my gosh. I mean, so I lost my grandfather and I lost my uncle. Okay, maybe this is worse than grandfathers and uncles. Right. Don't tell all the grandfathers and uncles around,
Not really cared about
let all the grandfathers know that when you pass on, your grandson might feel bad, but not as bad as he would if his team lost again. Anyway, so what's going on? What is this? Why is this? I'm sure the guy loves his grandfather or loved his grandfather. I'm sure he loved his uncle. I'm sure this other fellow loved or was bonded or felt close to his comrades who died. So why is it that he felt worse? The answer, I believe, is because people transfer their personal identity, their sense of self, to the team.
I agree with you.
As in, we won or we lost. Now, of course, it wasn't we, and, you didn't decide, it wasn't me or anyone else in Atlanta that didn't call a running play.
3rd and 1.
Right. It wasn't me that didn't pick up the block.
Right.
And let this guy come through and blow up the play and turn over the ball.
The guy from Alabama, by the way, is the guy who came in and they think it's okay. But
right.
Dante Hightower. But
Dante Hightower, yeah. Where's Devontae Friedman, who,
right.
Friedman, or Freeman, actually. But, okay, close enough. Everyone actually should have been mad at that guy.
Yeah.
Everyone should be saying, I don't ever want to see Devontae Freeman again, because he lost the game. Now, I guess some people could say, I don't ever see the offensive coordinator, but he left town, so I guess...
he made a good call. That was his best call.
Best call
Leave town.
Best play he made that night was leaving town.
Right.
Yeah. So, anyway, why aren't they mad at the player? The answer is because it wasn't really Devontae Freeman who blew it. It was me. it was me, because it was my, if we won, it had been me who won. So if we lost, it's me who lost.
Feeling.
Now, why is it me? Why is that me? Like, why, how do we get like from here to there? How do we transfer our sense of identity? Those guys don't care that I got to make my mortgage payment tomorrow. Those guys don't care that I got a letter from the IRS. Those guys don't care that I might have just gotten bad news from a doctor or something like that. You know what? They don't know. So why am I identifying with them? So there is within every person, as insignificant as we all feel, there is a yearning to be transcendent, to feel that we are great beyond ourselves. Now, why do we have that yearning? Where does it come from? I don't think that beavers have it, and wolves have it. I mean, I don't think so. I don't think the dolphins have it, elephants. I don't think that, like there's no other creature that has this sense of feeling a sense of greatness beyond myself. I mean, maybe in a herd of cows, maybe the guy's sitting there saying, I'm just so proud to be part of this herd.
I'll go right off a cliff. I'm so
right. I'm just, there's power in the herd, power in numbers. I don't think that any other animals feel like that. How is it, why is that we feel like that? So I believe is because from a religious perspective, and here comes the Torah angle, you knew it was coming. Mm-hmm. From the Torah angle, man as a creator always wants to be identified with his source. And the source is the infinite. So everyone really knows deep down inside themselves that everyone really is part of something that is great and infinite and powerful. And even though I live most of my day in a very constricted reality where, I can't park in that spot because this is reserved, and I can't, there's only so many of us can fit on an elevator, and on and on and on and on. And, and I have to take care of my bodily needs, and I have all my weaknesses and all this stuff. But there is this sense inside each and every one of us that I am as big as the entire world. What sports does is it offers this sense of being transcendent. And that's why it's a really big deal that they make when you're done watching the game, especially if you have won, only if you've won actually, do you want to watch, and they made a great big deal out of the award ceremony.
Right.
Now, they've even elevated the Super Bowl award to downright idolatrous. They have a guy carries it through, and people kiss it. As it goes by, they touch it, and they kiss it, they rub it, they do all kinds of, and he goes through the column, and he carries it, and then he hands it to another guy who very ceremoniously carries it, and of course only he is chosen by the Grand Wizard to be the one to carry it. Right. And everyone does that.
They even do that in the parade through the town. They take it through the streets.
And and as they were all kissing it, I was thinking tomorrow they're all going to come up with some lip disease.
Wipe it down a little bit.
Right. They should at least in between to spray it with a little. Right. So this is a big part of it, because the winning is only conferred by this sense that I am the greatest. How am I the greatest? Which I always thought that I was. But now that my team has won, it is confirmed that I am the greatest, which is why when my team loses, I'm dejected. And if my team lost and it was close and I could say we put up a good fight, I could say, well, I'm not so bad. And of course, the worse your team lost, and the more excruciating the loss was, then the more you feel bad about yourself.
I know. I've been there. I know what you mean.
Right. So, now, of course, this is all silly. The problem is that people are not able to find within themselves this sense of value, but it's not wrong to be looking for it outside of yourself. That what is, I believe, wrong, and and the proof that it's wrong is that even the people that are so happy and exulting, I guarantee you that somewhere a New England Patriots fan got fired on Monday. even though his team won. He came into work, and the boss said, "You're fired." For whatever reason, because the last 6 months you've stunk up the place here and we don't like you anymore. Right. You're fired. But what do you mean? What do you mean the Patriots won? Yeah, but you're fired. Right?
Right.
I don't care how. But we won. We're number one. Well, you're not number one.
You're number out.
You're number. Yeah, there's the door. Goodbye. The security guy will see you to your car. Right? Don't touch your computer. You're fired.
No.
Right? I guarantee you, people that won, Patriots fans who were on, got a bad report from the doctor on Monday. There was one of them, at least, if not more. Right? And I guarantee you that there was some Falcons fans that were like absolutely suicidal, and they found out the greatest news ever. Right? And so therefore, we all know that the game is absolutely and totally insignificant. So the question really is, therefore, how do we look forward to? How do we live? We have a sense of transcendence, but how do we get that thrill? So how do we get that sense of being uplifted? And that's really where it's a challenge, because it's a long season.
All right, don't say drugs. You're not going to say do a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
No.
I just want to make sure you want to.
Drugs is always, that's the shortcut way. That's the worst one. That's always the worst one, because that is such a limited. That doesn't even last as long as the Super Bowl win.
Well, it does if you keep doing more. But
yeah.
I'm not recommending this.
A Super Bowl win can keep you euphoric for months.
Right.
Whereas the drug is and it keeps costing more.
Dopamine keeps going down.
Right.
The drug. Okay.
And the drug, you have to keep paying more and more and more to keep it up. Whereas the Super Bowl win, you got one flat fee.
Right.
You're good for.
You're good for a year.
Yeah. Right. It's just great. And if you recorded the game, you can just keep watching it over and over and over again.
I've done that as well. Yeah.
So for those of us who believe and who are told that there's going to come a time that the world is going to receive a great redemption, and who look forward to that, I think it's really important, although we don't get the instantaneous but very, very facile, very ephemeral victory. You don't get that short-term victory, we're number one. But there is a great, and this is what very much the Torah is part of, and the truth is, most religion is part of this idea that there is going to come a great redemption, a time of great redemption, and the world will achieve great redemption. This is why you need to protect your emotions and save your emotions for those things that really count. The game is a good game, and I'm saying this only because wasn't raised as a Falcons fan, so I was able to watch it with a little distance, although some of the other people that were around me are real bona fide Falcons fans, so the devastation to them was horrific, right? And if the shoe had been on the other foot, let's say this had been like my team, like I own the team, right, the Minnesota Vikings, so then maybe I would have felt, not maybe, I certainly would have been feeling very, very different, no doubt about it. But having had an opportunity to watch it with a little bit of distance, I realized that we have a job to do, and that is to protect our emotions. You have to protect your emotional engagement and not let euphoria or depression be defined by those things that we know are not really us, and instead to define ourselves and identify ourselves with those things that are truly good, and to abhor those things that are truly bad. And when something goes wrong, now I'll tell you the truth. I can understand much more so someone being either euphoric or depressed after the past election. I get it.
Right.
I get it. You believe in your country. You are certainly a part of your country. You actually pay taxes to that country. It raises you. You are going to really live or die, potentially. Right. Based on the decisions that are going to be made out of Washington, your well-being and those that you love. So I understand if you really feel that, that you lost, meaning the bad candidate got elected. Mm-hmm. I can really, really understand being depressed, and I can understand if you believe the right candidate got in, I can understand your euphoria. That's a lot closer. Even then, I would say, get a grip. It's not as bad or as good as you think it is.
Or maybe what you're saying is deep down, all of us have this transcendence feeling. All of us have this need to be a part of something. All of us have this need to transcend and find our source, as you're saying. And unfortunately, and I guess if you understand it, if you read the Torah and understand where you're going, at least you can direct that in the right direction. But for all these other people, they really have no control, because I have this inside of me, so I'm going to take it out by putting on a costume and say, Trump's a misogynist, or running out in the streets and do whatever, because I really don't understand what this feeling is.
Right.
And I'm going to cheer for the Falcons, or I'm going to go save the whales because I know I'm supposed to be doing something with this.
That's right.
And I don't know how to direct this.
Right. Yeah, it's misguided because it doesn't have any guidance. Right. It's understandable. Whereas, people, Jews, who really have been in the game for a long time. It's been a long season. Like, we're going on to 3,330 years
We've
now.
had some bad quarters.
It's been a long season. Yeah, been really down.
Tough quarters.
Right. But as it's like that last minute
Right.
that really
Doesn't count.
Right. It's really that last few seconds of the game that really count.
Yep.
But this is, if you believe in something transcendent and understand, we believe that the world is moving towards this transcendent moment of coming together in a universal oneness, and you believe that you have a role to play in that oneness, so then that's where your emotional roller coaster will be pinned to that, and other things that come along. Certainly your football team, even your president, right? Which is certainly much more substantial, but even the president, those things you'll be able to just compartmentalize. Say, interesting, but we'll get through this. It's the big picture that I'm looking at.
Wow. And that makes sense. And I see that in a lot of people. I misdirected use of something that's good. I mean, we all have this, I guess, inside of us. We're striving for that source. We're striving to come together with that. We're all want to be a part of something, and sometimes we're just a little confused and we need a little bit of direction.
Yeah.
I wish there was some kind of book or something that gave us that direction.
Yeah, just a little book that gave us some direction, right?
That would really help, I think.
Yeah, so, there is
or even 5 books if you had them.
Nor even. Sometimes there was a great line at the end of one of the more famous prayers in the synagogue service that concludes just about every synagogue service. It says that we look forward to a time, and on that day, God will be one, and His name will be one. What that means is that we all look forward to a day when the world achieves an absolute and total unity. That all creatures and all of creation is unified by the oneness of God. Now that is something that everybody's looking forward to. That will be like,
there we go. We're number one.
Right. We're number one. You know why? Because then there will only be one. There's only going to be one. And everyone really, truly will be number one, because unity, not that I want to be one because I was able to step on the other guy, but the world will be unified and will achieve oneness. And that will be the most rewarding feeling. That will be ecstatic. That will be transformative. That will be transcendent. Then I'll feel like powerful like the whole world because of that oneness. That's really, we're number one.
That's the feeling. Well, you got me. I feel a lot better about the Falcons.
Right.
I even feel better about that other loss that I cannot say anymore. That was a couple weeks before that. I feel like I'm number one now. Wow.
Yeah.
You've done a lot for me, Rabbi.
There you go. You are still on your way to being number one. These little setbacks along the way were diversions. So that's what I say. That's why we have to keep our emotional compartmentalization, because if we don't, our emotions should be reserved for the things that we really care about. And although it seems as though we care about these other things, we want to compartmentalize, because if you start really investing your emotions in these other things, when the real thing comes along, you might be emotionally bankrupt at that point.
Good point.
Your emotions are empty because, like, let's say God's gonna make the world one, and you say, yeah, but can't you wait till after the playoffs? You might miss.
The one thing to clarify then, so you're saying that all that praying I've been doing during an Alabama game, God's not even listening? Do you not think that when I pray for that game that God isn't helping get that extra first down. Is that what you're saying?
You know, as a kid who grew up praying for my teams and my
Right.
players, and I really, really, really sincerely prayed for that.
Right.
You know, the truth is God is listening, but we don't know exactly what he wanted. Who knows? I said this after the election. You know, the Trump supporters, cool it. You don't know how this is going to turn out. Trump haters, cool it. You don't know how this is going to turn out. And I would say the same thing to my patriotic friends and my Falconeer friends. Just cool it. You know, tomorrow's another day. That's all there is to it.
See what happens. All right, well, just so you remember, in Rabbi Freeman's eyes and my eyes, you're number one.
Yeah, that's right.
Definitely
We are number
We're
one.
all number one. All right, good one. Super Bowl wrap up. We'll see you next week on another episode of Jeff and the Rabbi.